Hello, everyone. So today's subject, now we are starting to get into, a serious subject about the self, about the universe, about spirituality, the real self. So hopefully, if you are listening to this video, hopefully you went through all, and I'm saying all my videos about mindset and self-development. If not, I recommend you to stop now this video and go look, fully my playlist on self-development, mindset, etc. Because now what we are going to see today is not, for the common man. I mean, it's very hard to understand. We are talking about things that are, very deep and very abstract. And so if you have no spiritual background, if you don't know like about the law of assumption and Neville Goddard, law of attraction, all this, I mean deeply, um, Hermetism, agnosticism, those spiritual teachings. If you if the words I'm saying now, they don't speak to you, if you don't know about anything I'm saying right now, like Hermetism and all this, it's better to come back later for this video, because now we are getting into a deep subject, and even I'm new to this, so that's why I made a disclaimer. I'm not a guru or theosophical teacher, because we'll be talking about theosophy today. And the followings are only my notes and my understanding of the videos made by Pablo Sender, PhD, which is working in the Theosophical Society. And his video is made on the book The Voice of Silence, The Voice of the Silence, written by Elena Petrovna Blavatsky. So the author of the book, The Voice of the Silence, is Blavatsky, which was one of the major figure in theosophy and in the spiritual world, So I put discussion with Pablo Sender because, to be honest, when I first read this book, I probably understood, I don't know, 20% of the book or 10%, And when I say understand, it's intellectually, To understand intellectually and to understand deeply, spiritually, is a different thing. So there can be mistakes in my notes, or in my understanding of the information conveyed. So the purpose of this video is to get you to the awareness of the spiritual path, and maybe to bring you to the right source of information for you to get into this path. Okay, so I'm doing this video to put you in the right direction and to share with you my understanding of the teachings and of the interpretation from Pablo Sender, which I recommend you to watch his videos. I will put the link of the videos, and I will also put the link of the book, The Voice of Silence, if you want to buy it from Amazon. So yeah, I strongly recommend you to check more about Pablo Sender's videos on YouTube, and even to purchase his books. I finished one of his books evolutions of the higher consciousness, which is it's amazing, you know, you cannot describe in words, because his work is, you know, he has a very big background in theosophy. Like I think he started to study, you know, to get into the theosophical society in 1996, something like this. But yeah, he's like he has maybe, you know, almost 30 years of studying this subject, you know. So he knows what he's talking about. And personally, I found him a very humble, honest, you know, sharing, you know, and he's not about himself, you know, he's about sharing a message and helping others. So I really liked the human, you know. And so I started reading his books and it transformed my understanding of spirituality, you know. There are other theosophists, he's not the only one, but since I knew about those teachings and since I only watched Pablo's videos and some Krishnamurti videos also, this is only what I can recommend at the moment. So let's start because this video might be long. As you can see, there are a lot of, but you know, a lot of things, but very important. And you know, this is only like a summary of my understanding, you know. So let's start with the intro of the book. So The Voice of the Silence. This book is about 3 fragments of the Golden Precept book, which is composed of 90 fragments and which have been translated by Blavatsky. She said this book is dedicated to the few, that, you know, this book will not be a bestseller like The Secret or other books that tell you how to get whatever you want, because only few people will be willing to go through the hardship, the sacrifice encountered among the spiritual path. Blavatsky wrote those 3 fragments by heart in few days, and she knows 39 of the 90 fragments by heart, and she wrote only 3. So why didn't she write the other 36? In her words, so in the book, she says, to translate the rest, I should have to resort to notes scattered among a too large number of papers and memoranda collected for the last 20 years and never put in order, to make of it by any means an easy task. Nor could they be all translated and given to a world too selfish and too much attached to objects of sense to be in any way prepared to receive such exalted ethics in the right spirit. For unless a man perseveres seriously in the pursuit of self-knowledge, he will never lend a willing ear to advice of this nature. So what she means by that? In our today's world, especially in the Occidental culture, we are taught to be the best, you know, no matter what, no matter which cost. Some people sell their friends, their family, damage nature, etc., you know, and just, you know, to beat their competition. This is the exact opposite of the theosophical teachings which Blavatsky founded in 1875 with Henry Steele Olcott and with someone else, I think, also. Therefore, she selected only those 3 treatises that she thought would be necessary to acknowledge for those interested into the spiritual path. Just for cultural purpose, you will find below the symbol of the Theosophical Society. So you see, most of those are religious signs, you know, and it says there is no religion higher than truth. I really like this. There is no religion higher than truth. The voice of silence is not a sound, but rather a perception. So this is the first fragment, the voice of the silence, okay? To hear the voice of the silence, we need to first enter into a deep meditative state, and then we need to look for the thinker, so the mind. Then we need to transcend the illusion that we are the thinker. Don't worry, if you don't understand right now, maybe it will get clearer with, you know, the what is coming next, you know. In the West, we see the earthly life as the real life. We may believe that there is an afterlife, but we still feel the need, you know, to get the most out of life, you know, in case there is nothing after or whatever. So we need to accumulate the wealth to live a life fulfilled, you know. We put really a big importance to this earthly life. But in Buddhism and in Hinduism, they consider the physical life as an illusionary part of our existence. And our physical life for them is like sorrow, you know, a life of effort. They see physical life as a prison, much like Plato, you know, with the cave. I don't know if you know the allegory, we know, with the cave. You're attached to it, to the shadows, because you only know this, you know, not light. Only when we reunite the two, so the real self and our I, body, mind, then we will discover reality. So we'll discover that the real self is not who we are, you know. I mean, it's not I am Larry or I am whatever. There are three stages of evolution, halls or states of consciousness that we must go through in order to attain the fourth state of rest, in which there are 7 states of rest or nirvana. So the first hall, the first stage of evolution is the hall of ignorance, our daily life, the physical plane. The second stage of evolution is the hall of probationary learning, the state where we start questioning life, the astral plane. Most people who are spiritual are aware on the astral plane, they are clairvoyant. This is only a step of evolution, not a final goal. Some people believe that the goal of spirituality is just to know more, get more knowledge. But the goal is to live spiritually, not just know about it. So, you know, of course, when you go through the spiritual path, you first has to get, you know, the knowledge. But getting the knowledge alone is not enough. And it's very important. They say the goal is to live spiritually. In the hall of learning, the aim is not to accumulate knowledge, but rather to correct our perception. Very important. So the more you learn about, you know, the spirituality, the more you must correct your perception, you know. Otherwise, you know, the knowledge will evaporate, you know, you will forget about it, and otherwise also your life will not change, you know. Learning about the self doesn't mean discovery of the self, which is something beyond the words. Hall of wisdom. This is the last stage of evolution. When you start having a perception of who we really are, once this perception is really established, then we are in a state of bliss. We are beyond suffering or happiness, beyond this interplay of opposites. So, you know, it's like a pendulum, you know, in our life right now, we go from happiness to, you know, being sad, to being angry, to being, you know, joyful, and, you know, all those kinds of emotions. But what it says is that when you know who you truly are, when you recognize it deeply inside yourself, you are above all those emotions, you know? You are in a state of peace, you know, of bliss. The fact that you know who you truly are will put you in that state, you know? It's not an effort. It's just that you recognize who you truly are. Okay? So this might be difficult at the moment, but you will understand with time, if you really put time into searching for answers, you will understand. So I cannot like spoil you everything right now. And also I don't know everything, you know, I'm still on the early stages of the spiritual path. And I want to share with you, you know. So this fragment, the voice of the silence, recommends meditation in the heart. When you start meditating in the heart, the yogi says that you can hear, you know, you are hearing different sounds, which are the manifestation of different states of consciousness in which you go through. So it says there are 7 sounds, and the 7 swallow all the other sounds and they die and then are heard no more. In other words, silence. You know, this is not much important, you know. Like, it's not just silence in your mind, but silence that means that you transcended all the states of consciousness of personality. This is something which is hard to grasp, you know, at our level of consciousness. So don't put too much importance in this one, okay? There are something that are important, which I will tell you, you know, to meditate on them. So meditation described in this book is not the same as a regular practice of meditation, which is okay to start with, but trying to get into a deeper level. And Pablo says, this is probably not feasible in this life. Why in this life? Because as you would see in Buddhism, Hinduism, and in the Theosophical view, they believe in the reincarnation, you know? So this earthly life is not your only life, you know, you had past lives and you will probably have future lives also. So this is a very deep subject, very deep truth to grasp, but we'll get into this later. So to be able to meditate in this way is to be able to raise our consciousness beyond your mind. And that's not something we can do merely because we want to. We have to be prepared for that, to reach certain states that allow us to go beyond our mind. So this is not, something you can do like right now, you know, if you want to do. This is something that comes with practice, with, you know, along the spiritual path, you know, as we say, it's a path. Uh, it's not a destination. It's not, I don't know how to say it. It's not like just one state that you must arrive, you know. It's a path. The good thing is you have to go through this path. If you are on the path of spirituality, then you are good, okay? There is no competition in this path, you know what I mean? It's not like in life, you know, in the society. So modern spirituality sells ideas that you are God or one step away from enlightenment. So this is what I was talking about, you know. There is no end point, you know, that you become God or, you know, one step away from enlightenment. This does not really exist, you know. But then comes frustration year after year that we are still the same. The process of spiritual evolution takes eons. We don't know how long, but like I said, just do what you have to do. Live the right way and don't worry about how far you are. Okay? if you believe in the fact that you will have many lives after, no, um, it's okay, to die, I mean, in this life without reaching the last stage, and anyway, Pablo says, or Pablo, I mean, the theosophical teacher says that it's impossible, like, to do it in one life, literally. So before the soul can see, the harmony within must be attained, and fleshly eyes be rendered blind to all illusion. Before the soul can hear, the image man has to become as deaf to roarings as to whispers, to cries of bellowing elephants as to silvery buzzing of the golden firefly. So you see, it's very poetic because this is a translation of the Golden Precepts books, um, and the teachings at the time were very poetic, They were not like conceptual like today, So that's why it was very hard for me to read this book. I'm not used to read, poetic book, especially into spiritual teachings. And yeah, that was it. That's why it was hard, I was used to read about conceptual teachings. So before the soul can comprehend and may remember, she must unto the silent speaker be united just as the form to which the clay is molded is first united with the potter's mind. For then the soul will hear and will remember. So what this quote means, this quote is from the book, The Voice of the Silence. It means that we have to bring harmony into our life to reach that state. Therefore, not reacting to everything we see or hear, and we bring understanding into our life. So you must have seen already, that you must not react to everything, that happens in your life, everything you see, you hear, you know. You must start, instead of reacting, trying to understand, bring understanding into your life. Trying to generate an inner poise, serenity. Only then we can hear the voice of the silence, which needs a quiet nature. This is very important because, as I told you, I don't know if you have seen my trading videos about mindless trading. In mindless trading, I always speak about a calm, serene state in which your inner self, or your intuition, if you prefer, will guide you, towards the right trade, and will make you avoid over trading, making bad decisions and all those type of things. It always comes to the same thing. That's why I said trading and self-knowledge or spirituality are correlated, because unless you get, this state of poise and serenity, you will never be consistent in trading. You may have some good days, some bad days, but consistency can only be reached when you bring harmony into your life. So we have to work on discovering who we are and lessening our sense of self-centeredness. We are not the body nor the mind. We are something that is behind watching, always in a perfect state, something which is not moved by what we experience. So in our society, we put so much emphasis into the I, the self-centered, the ego, the lower ego. We will talk about, lower ego, all this after, but for the moment, Know that what you truly are is not what you think you are today, you know. You are not, I am not Larry. I am not a trader. I mean, you know, this is not my real self. This is who I am on the realm, you know, of the physical world. But my true essence is beyond all this and beyond my body and beyond my mind and my emotions and all this. If all this disappear, I mean, you know, all the conditions like being a trader, my name is Larry, I am a male, I have a body, or if all this disappear, your true essence remain. And this is a meditation that we will talk about later, you know, and not in this video, in another one. But just know that you are beyond what you think you are. So the first stage, it says, is purification. So we think we need to change our external condition to be happy. All our desires are based upon this wrong perception. Of course, even today, I still think that I need to change my external conditions to be happy. I mean, now I have a different perception, but if I judge my reaction sometimes, I still have a belief inside of myself, you know, that I need to, you know, improve into the material world to be happy. You know, I need to have more money or more, you know. But I know that's not true. Intellectually, I know that's not true. But I still have, you know, a fragment of belief inside of me that I need to get rid of, you know, that, you know, we need to change our external conditions to be happy. It's inside ourselves because we have been taught like this, you know, it's not our fault, I would say, but it's our responsibility to change it. Only us cannot change this. Even though we have been conditioned a certain way, we can always change it, you know, from today, no matter your age or whatever. So all our desires are based upon this wrong perception. And we will always have desires. This is our nature. But there's a difference between I desire this, but if I don't get it, it's okay. It will not alter my happiness, you know, my inner state. Or there is difference between that or you know, that clinging to something and the will to damage other people to get that. So that some people, to get their desire, they will really damage other people. They will damage nature. They will, you know, harm. They will do harm to get what they want. And this is not good. This is not good at all, no matter your desire. So the purification means that we acknowledge that our desires will not bring us what we are looking for. So we are talking about happiness because this is what most people chase, you know, happiness. They chase money and material things because they think it will bring them happiness. Happiness is always the goal, you know, at the end. So the desire for life is the root of all sins. Very important. The desire for life is the root of all sins. Selfishness. Because people think that life is all that is. So some people, to save their life, they are able to kill other people's, you know, to do harm because they are too attached to their life. Even though they are not threatened, you know, to die, you know, they will still kill people just to feel better, you know. And here comes selfishness. We want to be the best. We want, you know, everything attached to the ego, you know. This is the root of all sins. There are some people who live really altruistic people, you know. They live for others. And those people, they, I could say they don't care if they die tomorrow, you know. They are not attached to life or, you know, material life or all this. All they want is to share what they have with other people and, you know, help other people and all this. And I could say this is spiritual life, you know. That's all about, you know, helping other human beings. And, you know, of course there are some deep things into the spirituality, you know, but if you don't want to enter deeply into this, I could say that the least you can do in this earthly life is to live for others, you know, to really help others and do the best you can, you know. If you don't want to work, I mean, deeply into the spiritual path, at least do not harm others, do good. So when you know that this life is only a stage, you can take it easy and go through life in a more flexible way, because you know there's something after life, okay? And you know there are other lives that you have to live. Of course, this life is important, otherwise we wouldn't experience it through our bodies. If we know that this life is the hardest part of the process, that after that is a state of bliss, then of course we would live in a different way. So in the book it says, kill the love of life. Jesus said not that the path was wide and easy, he said that the path to God is narrow and steep. Buddha said to conquer himself is harder to conquer 100 armies. In all tradition, it says that the spiritual path is difficult. No one is saying it's easy. So the second stage is to develop compassion for others. So that's what we have been talking about, you know. First stage is to acknowledge that our desire will not bring us what we are looking for. So to purify, you know, ourselves from, you know, the need to do the best thing on the material, you know, to be the best on the material life, you know, on the physical life. So you need to purify this. You need to remove this, you know, desire which is selfish. Remove the selfish desires and replace them with the desires that will help others. Okay. So in the video, Pablo Sender doesn't talk a lot about this stage. And at the end, he says that we cannot identify ourselves with the state of silence. And what I understood about this is, if we identify ourselves, it means we still believe in identity and something personal, you know, and it's still attached to the lower ego. How to say it? If you are in the state of the silence, you know, you are in a state where you do not recognize separateness. You are united with everything. You are one with everything. And if you are one with everything, you cannot be separated. You cannot identify this state because it is a state of unity. You cannot identify, I mean, yourself being in that state, because it would mean that you, the ego, is identified with that state, and therefore it's not possible, because the state of unity, it's being one with all. It's a state of bliss. It's beyond words, you know. It's hard to describe. I'm trying to conceptualize things which, like Pablo says, or Theosophy says, it's hard to put words into, you know, to conceptualize some things. But we try to put words and concepts so everyone can understand, you know. Now let's talk about the two paths. So Blavatsky says in her book that there are two paths. Once a person gets to enlightenment, he has the possibility of becoming a teacher to lead others who are still in darkness. So there is one path of self-development, you know, the spiritual path, but at the end of this path, it divides in two. The two paths are called the open path and the secret path. In the book, it says, at one end, bliss immediate, at the other, bliss deferred. The first one leads to the goal, the second to self-immolation. So the goal, you know, is to attain the state of bliss, the nirvana, you know, the state of bliss, and, you know, and being freed, you know, freedom, if you can say it like this. And the second path is self-immolation, means you come back to help, so you refuse the fruits, you know, of nirvana, of you know, the state of the bliss, you know, and you come back to help others on this path, you know. So this is a path of compassion, of you know, altruistic path. How can I say it? So yeah, let's go about it. You will understand. So the open path is one taught to the masses in all religion teachings, you know, like the paradise, heaven, the path of virtue and spirituality, which leads to liberation, nirvana. And the secret path, which is not openly taught in religious teachings, and which has to do with the reaching the goal, but giving up the fruit of the spiritual path, which is liberation from suffering, the condition. You remember, suffering is the physical life, you know, to remaining in touch with humanity and teach others. So this is the secret path. In Buddhism, there is idea of three bodies, kayas, that the spiritual person has. One is called Dharmakaya. It's a state of consciousness where the self is merged with the all, and where the lower vehicles of consciousness are rejected and left aside. These persons become one with the all, but it becomes unable to remain in touch with what is separate. The idea is that those who choose to be completely merged in nirvana, they have lost the possibility of being in touch with the world at all. And then there is two other bodies, Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya, and it's Pablo says nothing about this. So enlightened beings know that nothing can happen to the real self. Nothing can happen to the real self. But on the plane of illusion, we all suffer. The plane of illusion is the physical plane, the world we live in. And they are committed to try to help humanity to get rid of this false view. So this false view, you know, of this illusion, you know, of suffering and all this, you know, to get into the view that nothing can happen to you, to the real self. the one who choose the path of woe or path of renunciation. So the secret path, all these are synonyms. But what they can do is very limited. And here we are talking about the teachers, when they renounce to the fruits and they choose the secret path to help others. So what they can do is very limited. In the theosophical view, there is not possibility of a savior that will come and release us from ignorance or sin. So no, there is no God that will come and say, okay, he will save the world, etc. No? The idea here is that no one can do it for us. We may have teachers, that help us, but we all have to take care or to be in charge of our own spiritual development awakening. So it's our own responsibility to get liberated from ignorance or sin. We have spiritual teachers, we have mentors, we have books, we have many things which can help us to find our way. But it's only if we decide to do so, to live spiritually, that we can go forward, on the spiritual path. So this is a process of growing. A parent can help the child to grow, but they cannot grow for the child. The child has to grow by himself. Now we will talk about karma. Karma in the universe is not the punishment or a reward. Many people see this at like a punishment, Yeah, you will see his karma, etc., So it is just the result of our actions, the law of cause and effects. The enlightened being can teach how to stop producing these causes, but cannot prevent a person from producing them and therefore from suffering the effects. He can help you to stop producing the cause of karma. But if you still cause them, he cannot help, he cannot save you from the effects, that you have caused. It's like we said, there is no savior. There is only people to guide you on the spiritual path. In the theosophical view, we are only halfway of our spiritual evolution. There are rounds of evolution. I have still not read about it. I'm reading actually the Secret Doctrine, not the whole book, but summary of the book in French, and then I will be reading the Pablo Sender's book, Approaching the Secret Doctrine. And yeah, I will be knowing about this in a few months, and probably I will do a video, once I know. Everything I start knowing about, I share with people for free, especially the spiritual path. For me, it's a duty for me to share it with you. And I won't make anyone pay for something like this, unless one day, I will do seminars and all this. Of course, I won't pay from my pocket, or I will try to pay from my pocket at first, but of course, you need money to raise, live seminars, in person, etc., etc. But if one day I do such things, I don't know, if I will be doing such things, it will be, uh, at a very few cost, I won't make like, Tony Robbins or all those gurus, pay people 5,000 or 10,000, For me, I can understand why they do this, because if you go somewhere and listen to someone for free, your attention will not be the same as if you paid 5,000 euro dollars. You know, when you attend a course that you have paid $5,000, your attention will not be the same, you know, as if you got it for free. So I can understand why they make pay, you know, such amounts. But for someone who is interested in the spiritual path, uh, I mean, he will put attention into it. Okay. He doesn't, for example, I never paid for such courses, you know. The only thing I paid for are books into spirituality, only books. Or, you know, I will watch videos for hours on YouTube for free, and my attention is there, and I take notes. And this is why I can make a video today, because I took notes. You know, this takes time, sorry. So the choice between the open path and the secret path is probably not a conscious choice, like choosing right or left, you know. So when you get at the end of the path, I think it's not like a choice, you know, you make at the end, but rather a choice that one makes little by little in the way that the person is developing, the purpose of why this person is growing spiritually. So, for example, if I can judge for my person, I think I will choose the secret path not at the end, but because, like I said, everything I know, I am sharing it. So my purpose by growing spiritually is to help other people also. So the choice is made from now on, you know, it's not made at the end. After Pablo said, we cannot understand what nirvana is. And someone asked this question to Pablo Sender. He said, what's the purpose of going to nirvana? And he said, well, there is no purpose. Purpose is something which belongs to the lower mind, lower ego. So identity, separateness. I am Larry. What we call nirvana in Theosophy is an absolute state of unity. If we are in a state of unity, there is no separateness, there is no identity. You cannot identify yourself in this state. You are one with everything. But that state is absolute in a relative sense, you know, in the sense that there are wider, deeper planes or state of consciousness. And the idea is that these enlightened beings, after a period in nirvana, they have a different kind of life on a deeper planes of the universe. There are higher entities in the universe, and those beings have a certain role in the development of the universe as a whole. So this personally, I don't know about yet. I have heard about it, but not studied it yet. There are many rounds of evolution, and even though a soul entered nirvana, it doesn't mean that it will come back to nirvana in the next round. So what I'm understanding from this is the spiritual path has to be taken in the different rounds of evolution. You know, so it's not because you have entered nirvana in this round of evolution, then in the next round you will be in nirvana again. You know, probably you will have to do the work again, or I don't know. What we know as nirvana is not what we know. I like those types of sentences from Pablo. That's what a serious student must understand. We cannot know nirvana. In Buddhism, nirvana is annihilation, meaning the end of what we know. They talk about emptiness. In the voice of the silence, it says that those who choose nirvana are selfish and those who renounce are compassionate. To live to benefit mankind is the first step, and to practice the six glorious virtues, which means to become a yogi, is the second. That means that the real aim is not to try to reach enlightenment, but to live to benefit mankind. And then, because of that, we try to realize truth, because we can help humanity only if we are beyond humanity. This is very deep. All our help is only on the lower plane is the blind leading the blind, because it is on the plane of illusion. But Pablo says it is necessary. You know, even though what I'm sharing with you today is on the lower plane, what we call the physical world, is the blind leading the blind, it is still necessary to get people into the spiritual path, you know. It is part of the path. We have to start helping in whatever we can now, and not, you know, waiting for reaching enlightenment to start helping. However, if we are enlightened, then help that we can give is completely different. It can accelerate the change in consciousness of the humankind. In this fragment, it talks a lot about compassion and service, mainly at the level of helping other people realize the truth as far as we can. We ourselves didn't realize truth, but we have seen some little, and there are always people who have not seen that, you know. That's why it's important to share. Even though you are at the beginning on the spiritual path, you are still ahead most people who doesn't know anything about the past, the spirituality or anything, you know, and you can still help at your level. And each time you upgrade, each time you can help better. But it's like, you know, how to say it? If I didn't read about self-development books, so the very, very surface, you know, self-development, I wouldn't be understanding anything about what is being said right there, you know. It would be like Chinese to me, you know. I wouldn't understand anything. But thanks to people who wrote books or did videos about, I don't know, let's say the law of attraction or all this, you know, thanks to them, I got into the path and I started reaching higher and higher states of consciousness and deeper knowledge, you know. But you cannot start with this type of knowledge, not at our level of consciousness, you know. We wouldn't understand anything. That's why any help is good. For example, in the trading, now I'm doing trading videos on YouTube, but those videos are for the advanced trader. But how can someone access and understand my videos if there was not videos like baby peeps or, you know, all this kind of stuff teaching about the trend lines or what is a peep or um, how to set up a trading platform, you know? We need all this kind of information. So we ourselves didn't realize truth, but we have seen some little, and there are always people who have not seen that. So there is encouragement, you know, you can encourage people, but you should not be forcing people to grow. We cannot impose wisdom, you know. As they say, the student comes when the master is ready, you know. No, the teacher comes when the student is ready, sorry. So Q&A from Pablo Sender. First question that he has been asked is, should we leave the world to become a yogi and therefore become indifferent to people and give up love? Should we leave the world to become a yogi and therefore become indifferent to people and give up love? So he says there is a difference between detachments and indifference. We can detach ourselves from something. When we detach ourselves from something, what is left there is love. When we do it artificially based on an idea, we generate indifference. Detachment means letting go of our own needs, letting go of selfishness, letting go of the ego, the lower ego, our own void that we depend on something external to fill that void, you know. When we are expecting people to fill a certain void or to act in a certain way to fulfill our own needs, it's not real love. Because when we are complete, we love without asking or expecting something in return, you know, from others. Love is our natural state of consciousness. But there is a veil in that love, which is all our needs, all our expectations. Real detachment is not stop loving all people, but on the contrary, it is real love. Real detachment is real love. This is the real meaning. You know, I'm reading all this and talking about it, but you must sometimes pause the video and, you know, try to think deeply about those things. It's not an intellectual, even though I'm trying to share with you, you know, information, it has not to be all intellectual. Try to grasp inside yourself the meaning, the real meaning of things. Because those words are mostly the words of Pablo Sender, they are not my words, you know. So second question, action or inaction? The idea of evolution in Hinduism and Buddhism wasn't really there in the past. It was present in the teachings, but little by little it started being lost. It's only when Blavatsky started talking about it that others like Sri Aurobindo started talking about evolution. And now in many schools of Hinduism, they accept the concept of evolution. So at the time, evolution, it was only physical, you know, the Darwin um, theory, you know, Darwin theory of evolution. So we know that we evolve physically. But the idea of spiritual evolution, so evolution of the soul, was not present or, you know, until Blavatsky raised, you know, the subject again. It was present at the early time, you know, in the past, but it has been lost. And when Blavatsky started talking about it again, it came again, you know. So the idea is that they held is that the only reason why we are on Earth is because of karma, okay? And karma means actions. Because we act, we generate causes that are related to the lower world, and therefore we generate effects that will bring us back to the lower worlds. So because we act, we generate cause and effects, which is karma. So naturally, the only way to get liberated from this wheel would be to stop acting, to stop generating causes that will bring us back. That's why the question, action or inaction. But from the perspective of evolution, we are here to awaken our consciousness. So by merely staying inactive, we are not gaining any insight. we are not developing anything. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, you cannot be inactive because even if you don't act, if you choose not to act, that is an action in itself, and that is generating karma. And also you may choose not to act physically, but if you feel or think, those are also causes. So action, we talk about actions, but the fact that you think about something or feel something is an action in itself, and therefore it generates karma too. So you cannot stay inactive. It cannot work, So forget about the idea of inaction. This is why many yogis go into the forest and stop doing things just to stop the generation of karma. But in doing that, you remove yourself from society, and then you are self-centered in your spiritual searching. And this is something that the voice of the silence denounce. So you must not be selfish, just to remove karma and no, this is not the right way to do things. To conclude, by running away from the world, we are not going to reach enlightenment. And when we decide to not be of help to the world, we are acting in a way which produces karma. The idea is we generate karma by our intentions, motivations, not with our actions. When we do things with a good intention, we generate good karma. But still, it will bring us back to the wheel of birth, death, rebirth, no reincarnation. But it will produce positive environments, more conducive to the spiritual life. However, if you do bad things and with a bad intention, or you can do good things, but with a bad intentions, and this will not produce good karma. And in your future life, you will suffer more, So that's why you have to be good, do good to others. And with a good intention. I mean, do not do good, just for the sake of escaping bad karma, because in itself, it is not a good intention. It is selfish. You must do good with the heart, with really wanting to help others. And so, but eventually we have to get rid of the good causes also, and that is done by performing the action without being the actor, in a state of awareness where we are not really acting, but our body, emotions, and minds are acting, and we are the witness of the action. So I will repeat because it might be complicated to grasp from a first read. We have to get rid of the good causes also, and that is done by performing the action without being the actor. How you do that? So you perform an action in a state of awareness where you are detached from being from acting with your body, emotions, and minds, How to say it? You are in a state of awareness. I mean, you are external um, from the lower self. Um, you are the witness of the action, So the action must be performed by someone who is not you. How to say it? I think in the next lines we understand better. So which generate a space between the real self and the personality. So you must do the action, okay? But you must recognize that you are not the actor. I think now I've made it better, Uh, the actor is the real self. It is not you, okay? And then any action that is performed in that state does not produce a bonding karma because you are producing the action from a state of unity, not from a state of separateness. For example, when you give money to someone, um, you must not give the credit to yourself, to your ego, to your personality. You must act out, of unity because you recognize that the person to whom you give money is a fragment of the real self. So as you are, that's why we call unity. We are all from the main sources, and we are not separate. Even though we can see, on the plane of illusion that we are separate, the real us is not separate. Okay, we will get into this later. Okay, so this is eventually how we get rid of karma, but that doesn't prevent us from doing the right thing when we are in this state of awareness. So even though you are not in this state, of performing the action without being the actor, you can still, it's better to do good things and take credit for yourself if you want than do it bad things. Um, the voice of the silence, therefore, does not recommend retirement into a forest or monastery to look for your own spiritual evolution unless you are in the last part of your evolutions and need no more the words of knowledge. But even then, when you have found the truth, you must come back to the world and help others to the path of evolution. Okay? No selfishness, always compassion. Blavatsky said that Theosophy might take 500 or 600 years before being accepted or established, you know, and she wrote that 100 years ago, something like this. Um, and so there are still room, before Theosophy is being accepted, established. Spirituality is not a question of masses. There are very few yogis, jnanis, real sense. Very few people interested in a deep spiritual life. She also said that the amount of energy spent on the higher states of consciousness has a deeper effect than the same amount of energy spent on the physical plane. You will see why this is important. So the idea is that the people who are trying to awaken on the spiritual planes have an effect on human consciousness because there is only one human consciousness. We share this human consciousness just as we share the atmosphere. So if we purify this human consciousness, we have an effect on the whole humanity. Ola, Krishna. Sorry, this is a typo. Krishnamurti, for example, once said, if only 80 people could realize truth, the whole humanity would be changed. So I don't know about the number, but even though the number might not be real, the idea is that only a few people is required to impact the world. So we don't need to be more awakened people in the world that ignorant people, okay? So it's not about having a 4 billion people, uh, being enlightened. Otherwise, we will never reach the next stage of evolution. We need only a few people. So if we purify, sorry, Our real self is always influencing us, trying to awaken us, but our nature is not necessarily receptive to that. When we are on the spiritual path, we become more receptive to this voice. And now the last part, the third fragment, it is called the seven portals. Padaya, the choice is made. I thirst for wisdom. Now, as you rent the veil before the secret path and taught the greater Yana, your servant here is ready for your guidance. It is well, Sravaka. Prepare yourself, for you will have to travel on alone. The teacher can but point the way. The path is one for all. The means to reach that goal must vary with the pilgrims. Sravaka is the people who are still learning on the spiritual life. So when a master contacts a disciple, the disciple may not hear about the master anymore for years because the things that are happening in the disciple life are karmically arranged for the disciple to learn, and he needs to learn by himself. That's why it says he will have to travel on alone. He will go into his normal life, but now he will deal with it with a different point of view, a different perception. For example, he will not react to things that are happening to him. For example, return aggression to someone who is being aggressive towards you. The person who enters the path is committed to live in a different way. To summarize, once the disciple gets initiated, he gets a higher perspective of life. However, when he returns to his daily life, he must work on living life based on that perception, on that new higher perspective, and try to make that perception stable, make his own, make it his own. This is a different path from the regular path of spiritual awakening that most of us go through, and in which once we reach a certain level of perception, it becomes our new way of living. So the path of the initiation, it's not for many people. It's a few people, who are chosen and who gets mastered, and they go through the spiritual path faster than all of us do, okay? So on the path of initiation, accelerated course of spiritual evolution, when the disciple returns to his normal life, he might lose this new perception if he doesn't work on it, If he doesn't work on making it stable, and he can even get a psychological breakdown because it's very accelerated way of learning. And it puts a lot of pressure. Those disciples get a chance to go faster in their spiritual development because they want to help humanity. They showed it, And they show this by being of service during their multiple lives. So that's why they get chosen, to be taught, the higher perspective of life and go through the spiritual path in a faster way, How do we spend our time, our money, our intelligence on earth? In a state of self-gratification, enjoying life, or are we using all our powers to help others? Ask yourself this question. How do you spend your time, money, and intelligence? Is it for yourself or is it for others? One doesn't necessarily deny the other. You can enjoy life while helping others, But try to think of what you do. Try to think about your goals. Are your goals self-centered? Are your goals only about yourself, or are they a way to attain, a state in which you can help others to grow also, or to bring happiness to people, to bring joy? Just try to look at your goals and see if they are purely selfish or if they are a sense of helping others also. So when that person is mature enough to enter the path, which is something rare, there are not many people who go through this accelerated course. It is said that once she enters the path, there are only 7 lives left until that person reaches nirvana, which is a very short period of time from the theosophical point of view. Only 7 lives. It is very few in the theosophical point of view. So prepare yourself, for you will have to travel alone. The disciple doesn't grow regularly. The disciple doesn't regularly receive instruction from the masters on what to do. He has to gain the necessary discernment to develop on the path. The teachers say that there are 2 paths: the path of meditation, isolation, and the path of paramitas, which are the 6 virtues, of the yogi, or 10 according to the level, that a spiritual person has to develop. The path of meditation is difficult, but the paramitas is even more difficult. A lot of work and a lot of challenges. The master says, be of good cheer, because it is only 7 lives. It's like we work hard only for 1 calendar year, and then we pass, So it's very short according to them. It's like you do 1 year of full commitment and then you enter nirvana, A person is ready to enter the path after this person has attained pretty deep perception of unity. Okay? So this person doesn't feel, being separated anymore. All of our work to enter the path is to get rid of the sense of selfishness, of the illusion that we are this personality. The theosophical approach to spiritual life is in realizing that we are not the personality. We are not this body, we are not these emotions and the mind, and that the real self is beyond this. The real self is one with everything. That's the preparation for the path, and that's the aim of the theosophical spirituality. To take the person to that point where that person can perceive the unity of life to a certain extent. So it's all about this, about perceiving unity. Okay? You get rid of the illusion that we are this personality. You perceive unity in anything you do, in everyone you meet. It's much more deeper than we think, how to say it? I came to the realization, not really the realization, but the intellectual knowing that we are all one since maybe 1 or 2 years. So I know about this intellectually, but I didn't yet realize it deeply, I'm probably far from it, I'm just at the beginning, and to get to that realization, I know that I have to work every day to try to correct my perception. When others are yelling at me, I must know that others are not separate from me, and therefore I must not react badly, because if I react badly toward others, it's like I'm reacting badly toward the real self, toward who I am, you know? And it makes no sense, right? You wouldn't hurt yourself, would you? So that's, I'm trying to get you into the understanding, of why you should be compassionate and why you should not be selfish. If you do good with others, you are doing good to the real self, okay? To yourself. So just think about that. So this path has 7 portals, and each one of the portals has a key, a quality that is acquired to go through the portals, to the next stage. So the key is a quality, okay? And these keys are the 6 paramitas in Buddhism, plus one quality that was added in the voice of the silence. The first, um, the first key is dana. It is said to be the key of charity and love immortal. The first experience that a person has during initiation is a deeper realization of this unity of life. The person hadn't been made able to perceive this unity by his own effort and has the perception to a certain extent. During the initiation, his consciousness is raised to what we call a buddhi in Theosophy, in which there is a deeper perception of the unity of life. The person really feels being everywhere and in everything, not in only persons, but even, I think, the things like the trees and everything, one with everything, with the universe, with every particle, every atom, everything. But now the person goes back to his own state of consciousness and has to make this perception stable in order to gain that perception as his own. It's like a habit. Uh, you go to the gym. If you go once, it's not stable. You will not, you will lose, that knowledge, how to say, that state. But if you go to the gym every day, it will become a habit. It will become stable. And in this case, a new perception becomes stable, okay? You have to work on it every day. And not as something which happened during the initiation. And of course, when the person comes out of that experience, she has a full sense of love and charity and compassion for a while, and that's a major quality of his state of consciousness. This stage could be related to our physical nature, to our actions. Okay, so the first key is related to physical nature. The second key, Shila, is a key of harmony in word and act. The key that counterbalances the cause and the effect and leaves no further room for karmic action. In the second stage of the path, the karma begins to be accelerated so that all the roots of ignorance can be seen and worked on and realize the illusion of that particle obstacle for the perception of truth. So in the second stage, karma is being accelerated. So, you can learn, as you know, karma is not punishment, it's a lesson. And you need to reap the effect to learn the lesson, and the more the effects come fastly, the more you can learn rapidly from the effects, etc., etc. So many challenges will happen during this stage in which the disciple has to mature from this experience, which are pointing out all his weaknesses. When we are serious about the spiritual life and in any endeavor, we naturally attract opportunities or difficulties to grow. Very important, because this is true not only in the initiation, it is true in your daily life. When you are serious about something, you will attract many difficulties to you, and they are required for you to grow. They are not punishment. You must not see them as punishment, but as lessons to grow. If you see them as punishment, then you are in a victim state. And you cannot grow from a victim state. You can only fall, you know. And many people, when life begins to be difficult, are scared. They get discouraged, you know. The spiritual path, of course, is beautiful at the end. We are happy and peaceful, but to get there, it's difficult and painful. It requires letting go of our mistakes, our old habits, our wrong needs. This is the same for the trading path, you know, the trading journey. It's beautiful at the end, but it's difficult to get into mastering, you know, the trading skill. It requires letting go of your mistakes, your habits, your old habits, and your wrong needs, your ego, in other words. After the first stage of enthusiasm, we face difficulties, and this enthusiasm fades away, unless we are really sincere and clear about what was ahead. So that's why in trading, for example, people they get excited about the reward, you know, the money and all this, but they were not sincere. And those who are not sincere, they will leave, you know, they will go do drop shipping or crypto money or, well, you know, they go from a trend to another trend to another trend, you know. Only the people who are really sincere stay into the path. That's why we are warned before entering the path. Let me tell you about the pitfalls that you will encounter, because only those who are really sincere will enter the path. For example, in the movie, you know, you have stories of gurus making the disciple staying at the door for 3 days, you know, to see if he is really sincere. The point is, at that stage, the disciple has to learn how to develop this discernment to know what the right action is. This is why karma is very much associated with this stage. Also, in spirituality, what is important is not what the person does, but primarily what are the intentions of that person. Remember, we have talked about this with the karma. The intention is more important than what you do. For example, you do not steal something because you fear the punishment, you fear karma, but because you feel compassionate towards people. Okay? So primarily, um, um, you know, that's the logic behind it. It's the intention which counts. So let's say you don't do something bad because you know you will get the karmic reaction, the karmic effects. It's not good, you know. It's better to do bad action with good intention rather than good actions with the wrong intention, if you know what I mean. Mm. So what matters is that the person does not have wrong thoughts, intentions in the first place. In this stage, the person learns to discern the right from the wrong, the truth from the false, the desires from the right view. When the person makes a mistake, as we are in the accelerated learning, the karma hits right away, while usually the results of karma are held many times, sometimes for many lives, for normal people, especially if the person is not mature enough to receive the lesson. That's why you can see, we say that there is no justice, you know, in this earth in life. You see people doing wrong every day, every day, every day, and they get no punishment. and you see people doing good every day, and it seems like their life, they are unlucky. They are, they get bad effects, they get many problems, etc. What you must understand from this is karma is not a punishment. It is a lesson. And the people who do bad all along their life, if the karma does not hit them, it's because they are not mature enough to receive the lesson. I mean, if the karma hits them during this life and they are not prepared, they will die, they are not prepared. And there is no purpose for people, to kill. There is no purpose in the spiritual sense, to give a lesson which someone cannot, take. That's why their karma is held during many lives, and they will get the pain and the hardship only when they are ready to learn from it. But eventually they will get it. It's like you are getting in debt, in debt of karma, and then one day, I mean, not all at once, but one day you start realizing that you have to do good, and that's when the karma hits you and you start learning lessons. But you must see it as a lesson and not as a punishment. This is very important, I think, from my point of view, from what I have learned. So karma is not a punishment. Otherwise, it would result rapidly to ignorant person, and that person would not survive the punishment. On the contrary, it holds until the person is strong enough to receive the lesson. Karma is here to help the growth, not to stop it. So the second stage would be related to how we feel, because the source of disharmony is emotional. I'm laughing because this is true in trading also. If you want to bring harmony in trading, if you want consistency, you need harmony. If you want harmony, it's emotional. It's an emotional fix, We all know what we should do instinctively, but it's our emotions that prevent us to do what we want to. The third stage, third virtue, in the book it says, passion sweet that nought can roughen. If I want to be honest, I don't know what it means. I mean, passion sweet, I know, but this I don't know. So the third K has to do with our lower mind. First, it was with our physical nature, then it's emotional, and now it's with our lower mind. Our lower mind cannot really see. So our lower mind is our personality, it's our ego, okay? When we refer to lower ego or lower mind, it's our personality. Our lower mind cannot really see. All our mind can do is to be patient when things happen, because we are going to see that the next key has to do with the higher mind that really sees things, okay? So in this stage, the key is to be patient, because you cannot fix things using our lower ego or lower mind or personality, call it what you want. So you must be patient so it gets to your higher mind, and your higher mind will be able, to see things as they really are. At this point, the disciple is developing the sense of surrender, of patience, of knowing that everything happens the way it has to happen. In French, there is a book called, I think it's only in French, yeah, because the author is French. The author is Aude Manuka, and the title of the book is Respire, le plan est parfait. So it says, est toujours parfait. So it says, breath, take a breath, because the plan is already made. It's already perfect, you know. It means that just, you know, no stress, like, don't worry. The plan is perfect, you know. Everything which has to happen happens the way it has to happen, you know. So be faithful. That's what it means. That's what it means. So this is a war at the mental level between the call of the lower ego and the call of the higher ego. The fight between our spiritual aspirations and our lower needs, desires, attachments. So when there is something you want it to happen, but it does not happen, just be patient. Don't let your lower needs, desire, attachment get, you know, the lead of the fight, you know, between your higher ego and lower ego. Just be patient, and you will see clearly after that. You will get the answers. However, if you get impatient and nervous and angry, emotional, if you get emotional and bring disharmony, well, you will not get what you want. You will delay, you know, you will not see clearly. This is a stage where we have to challenge the things that we are most identified with, which is our psychological self, our personality. This is why it says, the more one dares, the more he shall obtain. The more he fears, the more that light shall pale. That's why in life you have example of people, they dare, they go and do things like, you know, they are not afraid to die, they are not afraid to lose, they are not afraid of being judged, you know, by people. They just go like they are invincible, you know. And generally those people, they are successful in what they aim for, you know. So we can try to control our body, our emotions, but we can still be identified with our psychological self. Look how great I am. I am control perfectly my emotions and my body. So remember, our goal is to detach ourselves with this identity. We have to reach the state of unity. Remember that always. So we are now challenging that very sense of being, the personality. And that's a subtle battle, more subtle than fighting with the emotions or the physical actions. So it means that this stage is more difficult than the two previous one, okay? Now we reach the fourth stage, the fourth key, viraga. Indifference to pleasure and to pain, illusion conquered, truth alone perceived. So this stage has to do with the perception of the pure self, okay? It is the absence of conditioning, the absence of personality. Raga means color, and V is without color, viraga. So far, we were working on to what was external to us. Even the psychological self is external to our pure sense of being, you know, to the real self. Mind, body, and emotions are external. Even though in the physical plane they appear to be internal for the mind and emotion, from a higher plane, from a higher perspective, they are external because they are attached to the personality. Mind, emotions, and body are attached to the personality. The real self is beyond that, beyond all this. Now, the work is on our internal pure being, the inner man. This stage has to do with the perception of the pure self, which implies to transcend thoughts and the idea of the thinker. You remember on the first fragment, we said the free stage to hear the voice of silence, and the second one to look for the thinker and to transcend the illusion that we are the thinker. This is the last stage, to hear the voice of silence. And remember, it's not a sound, but a perception. So that person has mastered the lower self in order to perceive his real self in a deep way. We can always perceive our real self, but not in the deep way. What we can see is a reflection of the real self in our state of consciousness, you know. But once we reach this stage, we can see the deep, you know, deeply. So that's the last step where there is a kind of struggle. After this gate, there are no more things to perceive, deeper things to realize, but sorry, there are more things to perceive, deeper things to realize, but they are not related to any kind of struggle, you know. So after this stage, it becomes easy if you want, okay? Up to the fourth stage, the person can be lost. But at this point, where the lower self is mastered, it is done. When you has reached that state, the portals that you have to conquer on the path fling open wide their gates to let you pass. And nature's strongest mights possess no power to stay your course. You will be master of the sevenfold path, but not till then, O candidate for trial's passing speech. When the real self is perceived, the illusion, so the danger, the struggle, the possibility of falling back, vanishes. Okay? So the next three stages are not very described because they are very high, and because the accomplishments of those cannot be really understood for us. We may refer of happiness like excitement, which is not the same definition. You know, there are many words that is being said by Pablo, by Blavatsky, by whatever. We think we know the real definition of them, but the spiritual definition of them is something else. The same for love. For us, love is like a feeling, you know, or attachment or whatever. And in the theosophical view, love is detachment. You know, it's the contrary. So that's why you cannot really grasp the understanding of all I'm trying to explain, you know, trying to say. Because even I didn't understand, you know, the deep meaning of all this. But still, we can try to understand those things, okay? So this is a work. That's what Pablo says when say it's, you know, reading, I think Blavatsky says it, but reading is a form of yoga, you know? You don't have like to read things like you read The Lord of the Rings, you know? You must read while trying to capture the real meaning of words and try to capture them not intellectually, but spiritually inside yourself. It's like you are feeding your inner being, you know, when you read. And this is a form of yoga, according to Blavatsky. So the other stage, they say Virya, the dauntless energy that fights its way to the supernatural truth out of the mire of lies terrestrial. And Diana, whose golden gate once opened leads the Nalgor, a saint and adept, toward the realm of Sat, eternal, and its ceaseless contemplation. Dhyana means meditation. It's not a meditation that we practice, but a constant state of contemplation of the real self. Prajna, the last key, to which makes a man a god, creating him a bodhisattva, son of the Dhyanis. Prajna means wisdom, and Dhyanis are like spiritual gods. And that's it for today. I think it's a pretty long video. Hopefully you went through all this video. If you want my notes, probably I can send them to you. Just contact me on my website, elysiumtradingempire.com. You can use the contact form and ask me for this transcript. So those are my notes, but what I can recommend you is to make your own notes of the videos and the books that I will put in the description. It's really worth watching the videos, okay? If you want to get more, I mean, most of what I have written is what Pablo said, sometimes word for word, you know, most of the time. And so this is like a transcript of what Pablo has been saying. But even this, I will try to summarize it with my own words and my own understanding, you know, because like this is like plagiarism, you know. Even though he said it with spoken words, I mean, I wrote it for my own sake, you know, but I will never write a book, you know, or an article saying word for word what Pablo has been saying. So overall, the best thing to do is to make a summary of your own, you know, and try to understand things by doing research, etc. Your own. So I'm going to end up this video. Thanks for watching. And yeah, see you later for other videos about this subject, which I think it will take time for me to make other videos, because I first have to read the books, to digest the material, then to watch videos about it, try to understand more, and I will try to summarize more, you know, with my words, maybe, I don't know, for the next videos, whatever. Thanks for watching, and do not forget to comment and to share your views, and if you learned something, and see you next time.